You have probably noticed that really confident speakers pause a lot, and those who are not so confident tend not to pause as much. The not so confident ones, what they'll do is rather than have a pause, they'll often join the sentences together with the word and. You might hear something like this. Hi everybody, my name is Barbara Moynihan and I'm here today to give you 8 benefits of pausing. And when you use these benefits, you will find that they're going to add impact when you're presenting and when you're communicating in any situation. And. If you're a person who notices yourself using a lot of ands, you might need to think about replacing some of them with full stops. Martin Luther King had that really famous speech, I have a dream, as people call it. And in that speech, he averaged 106 words per minute. Now that's on the lower end of the speed. We would usually recommend about 2 words a second, which is 120 words. Or if you're in the radio or broadcasting, sometimes you'll go up as far as 3 words a second, 180 words in a minute. Even at that rate, it's an average. It's allowing you time to speed up, to slow down, and put in those really, really important pauses. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to look today at 8 benefits of pausing. Pausing makes you sound confident and look like you're completely in control. It takes a certain amount of confidence to be in front of a group of people and say nothing, or to look directly into a camera and say nothing. Now, when we're in a room full of people and we say nothing, they know that we're still with them because they can see us. In the virtual world, you need to be a little bit more careful in that if you pause and stay still, there's a real likelihood that they're going to think that you've fallen off the call. Recommendation in that there is, if you pause, you might just make a bodily movement, a body gesture, or you might even make a facial gesture that lets them know that you're still there. But pausing can really, really help you to look confident and controlled. When you pause, it reduces those filler words. Now, I should say to you, instead of putting the filler word, just simply pause. It's not really that simple, not when you've not been used to pausing. So a tip for you on this would be, every time you pause, if you're not used to it, there's a danger that you'll go, do you know what I mean? As I said already, to just fill that gap. The tip is just lightly let your lips touch together whenever you're pausing. I am doing it with my fingers as well. I don't know why I'm doing that. But if you let your lips touch together, somehow it just prevents those really distracting filler words from slipping out of nowhere. When you pause, it allows the listener to digest what you've said. This is really super important if you're delivering technical information or if you're delivering a lot of figures. Just remember that even though your audience might be somewhat familiar with what you're talking about, they've never heard that exact word combination before because they're your own words. Bear this in mind, that you need just to give that little second for them to take on board what you're saying and digest it. Have you ever had the experience of your mind being way ahead of your mouth? You've actually had to say to yourself, did I think that or did I say that? I think it was Bart Simpson who came up with that saying initially. Big benefit of pausing allows your mind to catch up with your mouth, or actually in some cases it can be vice versa. Give your mind a chance and pause. Pausing can help you to come out with more coherent answers to questions. If you pause before answering a question, it allows you to just very quickly formulate the best response. Sometimes people feel with questions that they need to dive straight in with the answer. But if you think about it, if you're doing that, it's sending out a signal that you're not really taking on board the question and giving the asker of the question, that's the wrong term, the question, you know what I mean, the person who's asked you the question, giving them the best opportunity for you to give them the best answer. Always pause before every question that you answer. The beautiful thing about that is if somebody throws you a curveball, and don't we all know those curveballs and dread them, it can just give you that extra second to pause for the answer for that. Think about it. If you've been pausing all along before every answer, and then you take an extra long pause, it's not as obvious that that has been a somewhat tricky question for you. Pausing adds immense impact. You know that. In particular though, pregnant pausing can really add massive impact. In case you haven't come across that term before, a pregnant pause is a pause in a place where you wouldn't normally have a pause that flags that something significant is coming. Let me give you an example. Fascinating fact, more car crashes happen on Friday the 13th than on any other Friday. I'll repeat that. Fascinating fact, more car crashes happen on Friday the 13th than on any other Friday. That fact is true, by the way. I heard it from attendees on a program of ours who were from an insurance company. I thought it was amazing, the power of the mind over the driving. But what I did there is by saying fascinating fact, it tees you up for, ooh, something interesting is coming. So try it yourself. Use pregnant pauses and see if it will give you immense impact. Pausing can almost eliminate gaffes. I'm not going to say completely, because sometimes there's always the odd one that can happen to us. And a gaffe by definition is where you say something that is embarrassing to you as a speaker for having said it, and also it could cause offense to others listening. If you're being cautious, pausing before every time that you open your mouth, it's less likely that you're going to have a gaffe. Now, I'm pretty sure you're like me in that you have had them from time to time. Pausing will certainly reduce them. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I've been working with somebody who's speaking at a significant event. And in fact, twice, two different people in the last week, completely different events, both dry running their content. They were happy with, we'd got all the structure and everything right. They were comfortable with the content. They were doing a dry run. And because they're so comfortable, they were in the flow, maybe not pausing quite as much as they should have been, and said something. And on both occasions, my jaw just dropped. And they looked at me and said, oh, I'd never say that in the day. Well, I hope you wouldn't. And what can help you to reduce the chance of having those gaffes is just putting in those pauses. When you pause, you use less words. A saying I heard many years ago, and I cannot remember who said it, but I love it. And it says, half the words, double the impact. Now, as somebody, you've probably all heard that less is more, yeah? My catchline, my tagline is, you see it there, more is less. The more you speak, the less people are going to listen. The more words you're babbling out, the less you're likely to put effort and impact in them. So do remember, when you pause, you use less words and you definitely have more impact. So I hope those 8 tips have been helpful. I'm just going to quickly recap them for you. They make you look confident and in control. They reduce the filler words. They help your audience digest what you're saying. They let your mind catch up with your mouth. They help you to give coherent answers. They add immense impact, particularly if they're pregnant pauses. They can reduce the number of gaffes. And finally, they can help you to remember that more is less. So if you want to find out more about how to add impact, give us a shout. We'd love to help you out with your presentations.